Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Online Darts Fallout Bar. A little bit of a first for us here at the Online Darts team because we've never done Fallout Bars for the Masters before. However, it's a ranking event now. It's a little bit more important, and we were told that it's what the people wanted. We got orders for a Fallout Bar, so we are here to deliver. I am Dan Simpson. I am joined by the Online Darts Welsh correspondent, Carwyn Evans. Carwyn, how are things over in Wales? Are you well?
Yeah, very good, thanks. It feels a bit strange, really, that it's doing the Masters tonight, but it started yesterday, obviously, with a different sort of setup to it this year. It feels, now that it's been ranked as a major, that it comes with an extended period of play.
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one because, and I know, Phil streamed the qualifiers. I thought the qualifiers were genuinely fascinating. I think because of the representation from all of the affiliate tours, and we had the CDC players in and the Asian tour players in, women's tour, dev tour, etc. I think the thing that underwhelmed a little bit about that, we won't dwell too much on the qualifiers. We've got lots of darts to talk about, but whilst I think we ended up with a relatively sort of almost predictable lineup of qualifiers making it through. Players that we know are good players and can put a few wins together and on their day can do very well. But we didn't get that. We didn't get a rogue surprise. We didn't get anything that really would garner the interest of the wider darting public. I think it would have been very cool to see one of the really talented guys come through from whether it be the CDC or one of the female players come through. So, but we got our qualifiers. The draw is what it is, and we got it was a relatively, I'm going to say, so I've had a quick look through, and we will say hello to everyone in the chat room in a moment. But I think that Joel almost got it bang on the head by saying sort of good but not great, and I think that almost summed it up. It was, I think, and whilst we will come, we did lose a couple of seeds tonight, and we'll come to it. But this, these first to two leg sets, they've got so much potential for complete carnage. We've got potential for chaos, and it wasn't as chaotic. I think there'll be a lot of seeds that will be happy just to get that one out of the way tonight, I think, won't there?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those where you almost try too hard not to lose the legs you start, because it's such a short format. It feels, it just, the whole night fell flat, even though there were some good games in there. It felt like, I don't know, was it the pressure of the fact that the sets were best of three legs? I don't know, but it just didn't quite have the excitement maybe I expected from a larger field and this format. It sort of felt a bit safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and whilst we know, and we'll talk game by game through it, we did see some good action. We saw some fairly exciting games. I think you're always going to be underwhelmed when the highest average of the night comes from a first round loser. It almost indicates that the rest of it was a bit scrappy, and I think for a lot of players it was just a case of getting it done. Before we get stuck into the games, quick hello to folks in the chat room. We're busy already in the chat room, which is great for a show that we've not done before for the Masters. Juanita is in. I'm sure she'll be happy with at least one result that she's seen this evening. Max Snells, Joel's in as well. Shelty's in. A lot of the regular crowd, which is fantastic. Ross is in. Malachi's in. Dan as well. We will, as always, so we're going to talk through. Preston's in as well, which is great. We'll have a chat through the action from tonight, get everybody's views on that. We won't spend too much time dwelling. Some of these were quite fast games, and there's not a lot to say about some of them. And then we'll get stuck into some predictions for tomorrow, because lots of even more exciting games, arguably, depending on who you follow and who you want to see. We'll start the evening where the evening started, I think, Cowan, with I feel like I'm going to say this a few times tonight. Not always, but a few times tonight, I feel like I'm going to say a game that sort of went the way it should have done. And again, I think there'll be some very happy seeds. But, Josh Rock, First time out in that new shirt with the new Target deal. Interesting to see the first time he wears the Target deal with a great big Target on. He's got a great big Winmau sign above it, which is, that's interesting. I'm sure the folks at Target won't have enjoyed that one too much tonight, the placement of those stickers. But just, I think, and again, I feel like I'm almost setting myself up to repeat myself here, but a professional performance, I think, from Josh Rock, this, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Against a tricky opponent in Guatemala, we sort of saw towards the back end of last year him finding some rich vein of form, which we hadn't seen for a while. And yeah, it was just a professional job in a questionable shirt. I'll put it that way. I'm not a fan of the. I think I described it as like a potato gratin sort of design across the.
I'm still not convinced what it is. I'm sure there's somebody with a connection somewhere that can explain to us the context. And maybe once we understand what it's trying to achieve and show, we might get it a bit better. But I'm not bowled over by it.
Yeah, is it meant to be a representation? Is it Fantastic Four where there's that one sort of character who's like
the Rocky bloke?
Yeah, is it meant to be that? I don't know.
It could be. I'm not sure. But I'm not bowled away. No, I think Jermaine he remains a potential banana skin, I think, at the minute for a lot of players. The final in the European Championships, he backed that up with that quarter-final at the Grand Slam. We've seen great things from Jermaine in the back end of last year. And I think he is a player who will have been looking, I think, to, because this is the first time this event has been ranked. There is ranking points. If you take the money aside, there's ranking points up for grabs, especially when the 5 players or so above Jermaine in the rankings weren't playing in this tournament. So it was a good opportunity for him. But, on paper, Josh Rock should have probably won this game 3-1. And that's exactly what happened. So I think, again, credit to Jermaine, he played very well, but Josh just got the job done, I think, turned up and did what was expected, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we're going to see more and more of from Josh over the course of this year. Is I think we'll see him win games that he should win quite comfortably, and he'll sort of cement his place in the top 16. And yeah, he's an exciting player. I think when he's in that mood for 180s, he hits them in abundance, and he's an enjoyable watch, really. I quite like watching him play.
It was a delightful game to watch. I really enjoyed that opener. Preston, a quick shout out. Preston has become amazing, one of our new members. There's some members in the chat. You will see them. Good on you, Preston. There will be a few opportunities for you to get involved in a few extra things, and you might find that we put your comments a bit quicker, especially when it's busy. Great stuff, and good on you. Thank you very much for joining the Online Darts team. Moving on, as we will do tonight, was again a game that, I think 2 years ago, you might have said that this was a toss of a coin. Now, it shows that, I suppose, that the beauty or the dangers of set play, depending on which side of the fence you're on. Ross Smith averaging, a few points higher than Damon Heta, but right things at the right time, I think, from the Australian, Carwyn.
Yeah, Heta's become one of those players who can grind out a win. He doesn't always have to be the best player on that stage. He knows how to win, and it's sort of interesting, really, when you compare the performances from these two over the last year, 18 months or so, where Smith has probably lost those games you expected that are sort of got into a bit of a dogfight, and Heta's won them, and that's why they're sort of gone in opposite directions in the ranking. And Heta's he's cementing himself as a top 10 player, and he's sort of making it very hard to beat him. And I think he feeds off the fact that he's an Aussie playing over in England, and the old Ashes argument, I guess, and every other sort of sporting moment in the fact that he thrives off that. it does help when your opponent misses 17 darts at a double, but that's
Oh,
not Headl's fault.
That'll help. I
Yeah.
regularly try and assist my opponents in using such methods, and sometimes somewhat beyond that. Yeah, it is interesting. I think we're going to find ourselves, I think, this week drawn to that order of merit table quite a lot because we normally see players coming up and down, in and out, and moving around because of the money that people are defending. Whereas here, it's such a free hit that if you are someone like a Ross Smith who has fallen now outside of the top 20. And what he's going to find, yes, there isn't too many players underneath him who are in this tournament still, but all the players above him in this tournament, barring one that we'll come to later on, that are, sort of in that spot between 20 and 10, they're all still in and they're all going to pick money up. So they are all going to move further away, regardless. No one's defending anything. No one's got to make a quarter final to add. They're all just going to stretch that. And I think the order of merit is going to become a really fascinating look as we get through this tournament. The third game of this evening brings us to, you could probably still say it was the biggest upset, certainly the first upset. And Rob Cross has got to feel hard done to here, hasn't he? Averaging over 103, the best performance of the night. But William O'Connor just did some rather miraculous things. I used the phrase doing the right things at the right time, but the 1-5-1, the finishing that he managed to find was just brilliant, wasn't it? And we know William O'Connor's got a game in him, but he's always been a player that was full of potential, isn't he? And we may see that realised. This 2025 could be a good year for him.
Yeah, definitely, and this will certainly give him confidence because, to be fair to Rob Cross, he didn't do much wrong. Just Willie, as you mentioned, Willie O'Connor did the right thing at the right time, and it was a very gutsy performance from him, and he's sort of been a yo-yo couple of years for him, really, where he sort of can't find that consistency to probably climb the order of merit as he should. As in, I would argue that he should be higher than 52 in the world.
Agreed. Every time you see it, it doesn't sort of make sense. You sort of think, well, he should be a top 32 player, really, shouldn't he?
Yeah, so it's just about him finding that game now to sort of constantly be hitting 97 plus averages and getting wins against Rob Cross, who's hit 4 out of his 7 darts at a double. He's averaged over a ton. He's hit 4 maximums. It's a statement win against a player who's playing well. It's not as if he's caught Rob Cross on an off night. Rob Cross would look at the stats and think, how the hell have I lost that? What have I done wrong? But
this is it. It doesn't add up, does it? No. Averaging 103, he's 57% on his doubles. That wins virtually every game of darts. Unless you are playing somebody called Luke and they're in full flight, that you win a game of darts if you play like that. It's not normally too contentious. But just a really, really well timed. He found big things at the right moments, and an impressive one for William O'Connor. It'll be interesting to see. Interestingly, and we'll come to the second seed that's gone out later, a little bit later on. But the 2 seeds that went out tonight were both due to meet each other in the second round, and that's a huge opportunity in the second round because William O'Connor, that should have been Rob Cross, and then if the seeded players make it, Michael Smith. So potentially just a little bit opening up in that draw, perhaps at the bottom, or certainly on the bottom end of it. Anyway, moving on, because we'll keep moving, because we've got 8 games to get through, and we've got 8 games to talk about tomorrow. And I know that this one will have particularly pleased you. It wasn't a vintage Gerwin Price performance. It was all decent average, decent doubling, professional performance, a little bit like Josh Rock. This was meant to be the result, and he delivered what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, Florian Hempel, well, I say unfortunately, as a Welshman, I was delighted he didn't, but unfortunately, he didn't play to his best and never really tested Price, and it all seemed a bit too easy, really, for Price. I know he had a few wobbles with his doubling, but he was never really under any significant pressure, and just it's just he'll be delighted with a win. He knows if he comes up against a man or men named Luke, he'll have to play better. But yeah, it's just he's talking about 2025 being a big year. It's just sort of slowly building a bit of momentum for him after the two World Series events.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, this with the Premier League on the horizon, I think, you know, whether he wins this tournament or not, putting some good dominant performances together is probably exactly what Gezi Price needs. I'm going to quickly correct myself because Michael Smith isn't a seed, Danny Noppert was. And that just shows, I mean, that's weird. It's a weird fact, isn't it? It shouldn't be the case. That's why it doesn't even cross my mind. What I won't correct myself on is it was still an upset, seed or not. I still think that Danny Noppert beating Michael Smith on a stage, even with the rankings the way they are, still does constitute an upset, seeding or otherwise. Moving on to game number... Oh, in fact, hang on a little minute. Before we move on to game 5, Phil Bars has been a busy little boy tonight, and we've got some interviews. So before we actually move further on, we're actually gonna revisit a few because I've just found them in the back end there. We've got so many interviews in the back end that it was difficult for me to find. We are going to start. We'll go in order because we've got the first 4. So let's go with Josh Rock first. See what Josh made of it, and we'll work our way through this.
So quickly?
Yeah, I went bringing the Milton Keynes for a honeymoon, so I'll be a couple of years yet. So, I've been prepared for a month now after getting beat with Crystal in the Worlds with the new equipment. I've been practicing like mad, and I proved it today.
Fair enough. Yeah, we did. So Josh got married at the weekend. There was it looked like a hell of a do. It looked lovely. I don't know where he got married, but it looked like a cracking venue. It looked very impressive. We will quickly move on because we'll rattle through these interviews, see if there's anything interesting in there. Don't forget, folks, we are going to show you excerpts of interviews, just little clips of some of the players talking after their match. The interviews will all be available in full as ever on our YouTube channel. Let's hear from Damon Hetter next.
So the thing is, I thought after I lost that game, I thought there's no even point even worrying about it or thinking about it. I never thought I was in. And it wasn't until like the day before, and there was a lot of talk on social media, and people are like really angry. I'm like, I just can't see it. And then there was a little bit of glimmer of going, oh, you might be like, oh, I might be in it. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything from whoever, and it could have been a thing. And I was like, yeah. But at the end of the day, what it is, you know what I mean? I feel like I have to earn my spot. I feel like, you know, you got to be that top 4, top 5, and after that is whoever they pick, and that's how it's always ever been. And that's just how I felt. It would have been nice. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be in it and playing it, only for the fact with the darts and with all the quality that's involved and everything that comes along with it. But at the end of the day, like I said, we got a lot of darts to play, and we've got a long season ahead, and for the next few years ahead. So I've got to keep looking forward to that, and that's all I'm mostly concentrated on. So, you know, Premier League has not been a goal that I have written down or anything. It's just one of those things that it'll happen when it happens, or if it happens, and it's just one of those. Obviously, I've still got my sundial, as you can see. Paddy Power has been slow to pay. And make sure you get that out there. I don't know, they're Irish, aren't they? It could be a little bit dodgy, I don't know. But no, we just roll with what we got at the moment until the dollars come through, mate.
Brilliant. He's still not been weighed in. He's not been paid yet, which is fascinating. I mean, to be fair, very quickly, probably the most sensible take I've seen so player talking about the Premier League and whether or not they were selected or not, whether you think he should or shouldn't have been in. It's probably the most wholesome and productive approach that I've seen. Probably a few players need to take notice of that approach, and I imagine that an approach like that can only help Damon in future selection conversations. He was mentioning the Irish there, so let's go to them now and let's hear from William O'Connor.
we're goosed. Like, I mean, the European Tour is such a huge part of the Pro Tour. And like, what is it now? Eight qualify now for the Pro Tour? Sorry, for the Europeans. Like, we haven't a chance. I mean, how do you break into the top 32? Or how do you break into anything? I mean, like, whatever opportunity you have, they're pulling it out from under you, like, and it makes it so difficult. So, like, even if you qualify for one or two of those now in the year, it's going to be huge. You can't catch the big boys. They are where they are, and they're going to stay there.
We're goose, I think, was the exact quote.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm inclined to agree in terms of, it's slim pickings, I think, isn't it, this year for those lads trying to make inroads. They've got to go and pick a trophy up, I think, to get themselves. I mean, we've seen players pick up a trophy and not quite break the top 20, haven't we?
Well, that's the thing now, isn't it? It's sort of you've got to have a good week or a good couple of weeks in a ranking and see where that gets you. But it's going to be hard. But obviously, I guess the PDC would say, well, we've got to protect our best assets, and they're in the top 16 for a reason. And it just makes it harder, I guess, for those boys from.
I know what Jack Garwood would say. He would say, "Don't be mad, be better."
Well, take Damon Hetter's approach, isn't it?
Yeah, there's 8 spots. There's 8 spots to qualify there. You can have any 8 of them. Any one of those 8 you can get yourself into. You win enough games and you'll be right up there, son. Last one of this little batch before we move into the next section of games. Let's hear from Gilly Price.
I mean, the PDC probably done the right thing with me and Dave. We put bums on seats, and whether we've had one off season, I don't think that makes a difference. I know we'll perform every single week in the Premier League, and hopefully we can back up. It's a great privilege for the PDC to put me back in, and I just got to back it up every time. I mean, if you're not hard on yourself, you're not going to improve. And I absolutely hate losing. People call me a bad loser. I'm the worst. I agree to it. I hate losing. And if someone's a good loser and they like losing, they don't deserve to play the game.
I mean, fair enough. I don't know where Phil's interview in the crowd. I think the bloody noise that's going on there. It's a bit rowdy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's doing well to hear their answers because whoever's doing the call in behind him has no sympathy for the interviewers at all.
I lost you for a moment there, mate. Hopefully we can. I think.
Oh, am I back?
Oh, we're back. I think I don't know if it was you or me. We lost something. But yeah, not a great interview spot. I think hopefully tomorrow we might be able to get a little bit more control of the surrounding noise because it is challenging to make out. 4 more to go then in terms of talking about today. Again, not too much in the way of surprises. Now, I'll put my hands up in this next one because Kevin Dukes has played the part in recent times as a bit of a spoiler, and he's shown that he the big boys on the stage and on the TV, but he can come and beat them. And I was fairly convinced, if I'm honest, that that's exactly what was going to happen. I was pretty sure I knew what was going to go on here, and I'm relatively happy to say I got it wrong because this was a really, really good Peter Wright performance. He didn't just win; he sort of fought back a little bit from adversity and weathered the storm a little bit and dug in and didn't mess around and it was a good solid win, wasn't it? A good start to the year.
Yeah, and it's probably the sort of game he needed to kick-start his year, really. Not a walk in the park, not an absolute battering, but a game where he was under pressure, he was tested, he had to push himself, and he came through it with a good average, with some good numbers to go with that win. And it's, I think, against a player like Kevin, who is a tricky customer. He's taken out a few big scalps over the last couple of months, and he would fancy this, thinking, right, Peter Wright isn't in the best form he's been in. There's a big chance for me to progress here. But no, fair play to Peter. I wonder if sort of not being in the Premier League is a weight off his shoulders, and that he can sort of approach things differently, where he can just focus on tournament to tournament as opposed to living out of a suitcase for the next 4 months. And Yeah, it might help him having a year out of it.
Time will tell, won't it? I think that there has been a narrative for a couple of years that people have suggested that what Peter Wright needed was a year away from the Premier League to focus on, preparing for a competition. And he looks, I mean, so we know he's been unwell. The way that he came out, I thought he looked like a different man to what we saw back in December. He looked full of energy. He looked full of sort of, I don't know, calmness, comfortable, back, being the showman, the entertainer. He looked happy in that position again, and he hasn't done so much recently. So, really good win for Peter. We've got a clip, a little bit longer clip as well from Peter. So, while we might have a little bit of background noise again, but let's see what Peter thinks.
Yeah, definitely. It was a big relief, to be honest. On my hand on heart, it was a big relief going, wow, that's brilliant. I can prepare for each tournament now instead of just running into each tournament. I don't know when the game is, getting smashed up, getting beaten by the best players in the world in different venues all over the country and stuff like that. Now I can prepare for each tournament, and it's only my fault if I lose because I'm prepared.
Yeah, congratulations.
It's not up to me. It was up to the guys who choose it. You could quite easily, have 16 players and you could have 12 players in it. There's, but I think they picked sensibly. They don't want to. I don't think they want to embarrass some players. They could go up there. The past 2 years, I've played absolute rubbish. They got bad. The Premier League can ruin dark players' lives, and it has done, and it's proved it. So, the PDC are very careful, and they do the right things. Just like, for instance, Luke Humphries, they didn't put him in one year, then when he won, and he won everything then, didn't he?
We seem to spend so many months, talking about the Premier League, and it seems like we're almost on the cusp of it starting, and we're finally getting like proper wisdom from players today. I feel like there's been so much nonsense and speculation and talk and theorising that it does feel slightly refreshing to hear them actually talking sense. I think very sensible view from Peter, and echoed a little bit like what we said. He's not running around in a suitcase getting. He's not having to play the best players in the world as his preparation to turn up and play into a tournament. He can't play his way into a tournament where he's getting bashed up every week. I think it's a really good approach. He can know where his game is and he can play his way in. And he hasn't got the memory of the Thursday still with him on the Friday when he turns up to events. So, I think it's going to be a really interesting year. Right, 3 to go from this evening. Probably no surprises again here. A little bit more of what we thought. It wasn't box office from Luke Humphries. He faffed around on the doubles a little bit. Thankfully for him, Joe Cullen faffed around even more on the doubles. It was a decent performance from Humphries, but he was under no great threat, I think, was he?
No, and it's funny, you mentioned a few times during this follow-up bar about players doing the right thing at the right time, where Cullen was once again guilty of doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Sort of the last leg in the first set where he had the darts and he just couldn't hit a barn door. Then in the last set, the missed darts. In the last leg, the game, the missed darts and the double. And it was sort of unfortunately, a typical Cullen performance against one of the top players in the world. And Luke Humphries was made to look relatively good in an average performance. And it's just he'll be happy to get past Cullen, who could have been tricky with relative ease, really. And he'll just look forward now to trying to sort of go deep in the tournament and getting back into the habit of winning tournaments, because it's been quite a stretch for Luke Humphries now without a tournament win, which is something we haven't said for quite a while.
Yeah, for him as well. we've come to expect so much. I think a player as well that expects so much of himself. I think it is, it's going to be interesting to see what this year brings. Obviously, there's a lot of competition. We're seeing players come from nowhere and win events that maybe, he or Luke were favourites to win. I think he'll want to get into things early. This is a perfect event for him, especially ahead of the Premier League. The draws isn't too bad for him either. You'd like to think he can work his way through it. But we'll see. We'll see what the rest of the weekend brings for Luke Humphreys. This next game, I thought was a bloody brilliant watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. However, William Borland is going to get backstage tonight, surely, after that game and think, how on earth have I lost that? I've gone 2-0 up. I've essentially got, 3 sets in hand. Then I've gone to the point where I'm going to throw for the match. And I have gone from playing absolutely superbly to not being able to find a treble. And some of the misses, the darts were so wide. He wasn't falling just outside the treble. These were, he was spraying them around something rotten. And it's probably just going to feel like one got away for Borland rather than a bunting win, isn't it?
Oh yeah, massively. And you sort of saw it happen in front of your eyes from the third set on. He started to get a bit erratic, bit of the old white line fever, and just I think he put too much pressure on himself to get the job done. And Bunting just did what he does at the moment. Then just finds that double, find that ball for the 130, and it's just sort of
The ball got some action in this game, didn't it?
Oh yeah. Both players finding it for special finishes. But yeah, Borland would be gutted not to have got over the line. And I know we sort of gave like a cheeky smile at the end, but inside that must have hurt because was it the fourth set he was throwing for the match and he had a leg just to forget himself, and you almost want to say, calm down, really. You've got this. Just breathe. But no, credit to Bunting. He does what top 8 players, top 5, whatever you want to call Bunting, top 5, number 5 now, isn't he? He does what top 5 players do, which is win games when they're under pressure.
Well, and it is that it's doing that under pressure. So Stephen Bunting threw 180, threw one maximum in that whole match. And it was in the leg when Willie Borland was throwing for the match. So that, it is that under pressure, and it's knowing how to win games and capitalizing on, your opponent's throwing for the match. You need it. They've had a treble-less visit. You can see they're wobbling a bit. They're spraying darts around 180. And he just snatched control. It was that I think the 180 was when I suspected him. I put in the thing out. So I think he's going to chuck this away. I think this could happen. And as soon as that 180 went in after the treble-less visit, I just thought, there we go. Like Bunting's got it. He's close enough to him that, and in this short format set play as well. Once that 180 goes through, it for me that was game over. It was only going one way from there. But, again, Stephen Bunting played well without being electric. It sets up a match with Peter Wright, which, again, could be really interesting. Because if Wright plays the way he did today, that'll be an incredibly close game. Who knows in this format? We will be playing a slightly longer format, but only slightly. Really, really interesting second round game. And the evening came to an end, as tonight's evening comes to an end, as we literally just click over to midnight. And again, I will keep myself corrected, Danny Noppert, world number 13, beats world number 16. Danny Noppert beats Michael Smith. And it was I think, had it not been for the slow start that Michael Smith made, then I think we could have seen a different result here. But that first set was absolute crap from Michael Smith. And he just couldn't, whilst he lifted the level, considerably lifted the level, it's such a short format that once you get behind, you've got to win everything then, haven't you?
Yeah, and the strange thing is, after losing the first set, which he on his darts, he broke Noppert's back, and I sort of thought from there, all right, okay, that's it now. Yeah, Noppert's was the seeded player, but I just thought, right, Smith now will regain control of this game and probably reel off a 3-1 win. But yeah, there's something about his game. It's not quite there, and it must be worrying for Michael Smith fans. Obviously, he took the massive hit after the Worlds with the money he was defending and sort of free falling down the rankings. And he needs to sort of see a few people in the comments are mentioning his darts and what have you. And yeah, he needs to look at his game now and think, right, how can I climb back up those rankings? Because the problem, once you start slipping, it's a dangerous game trying to get back up. And we've seen it from a few players who've lost tonight, who are sort of starting to fall down those rankings. And with the caliber of players coming through and the randomness, I guess, of 2024 major winners, remaining in the top 16 is probably as hard now as it's ever been.
Well, what that has done tonight is Josh Rock winning and Michael Smith losing. That's dropped Michael Smith out to 17th in the world. And we've talked loads about the level of protection that is in place for the top 16 and how the top 16 get looked after and how they go to the Euro Tours. And if you're not in the top 16, it's incredibly difficult to break the top 16. I'm not saying that if anyone outside of that top 16 is going to get it, it's probably Michael Smith. He's the best player not in the top 16. I don't think that's not really up for debate. But it's going to be hard. It was erratic, I think. When you look at the set averages, Michael Smith's average set one was 81. Then he averaged 114. And yes, that's amazing, but it's not then consistent. And then it was just in those last couple of sets that he began to settle. And it was sort of, those sort of 90-odd averages in the last couple of sets. But Noppert was just too steady. While Smith was up and down, Danny Noppert just came and was steady. And Noppert is a very steady player. He's difficult to peak and trough against Danny Noppert and do well because he'll often just come to the hockey, find an average. It'll be about 98 and he'll just stick there. And if you peak and drop off a bit, he'll catch you. And in set play, you can drop for 2 legs. You lost a set. Certainly, like in this format of set play, he holds his throw and then you have 1 leg off. He's took a set off you. And it just happens so fast. It's a very, very challenging. There'll be a lot of people, I think, sad to see Michael Smith go. I think the bigger concern coming out of this, like I say, and I refer back again to that order of merit, is that that does drop him outside the top 16. There are the next 3, so he's 17th at the minute. Players 18, 19, 20, 22, and 24 all play tomorrow. And if a couple of them pick up wins, he slips even further. Dimitri Vandenberg sat right behind him. If Dimitri picks up a win, that it's going, and this is a free hit, this tournament. If a couple of those players win a couple of games, Michael Smith's even further away, and it's going to become a real uphill battle. I'm just going to have a quick. I don't think we've got any more interviews being added for tonight, but please don't forget, folks, once you've finished watching us or listening to us, if you're getting this on an audio format at some point in the future, all of the interviews with every one of tonight's winners is available in full on the Online Darts YouTube channel. Right, so we're not going to predict tomorrow's games. We're going to predict today's games now, 'cause it's 5 past midnight. If you are in the chat room, please get your predictions in. We are going to rattle through relatively quickly what Cowan and I think is going to happen tomorrow. Some interesting games tomorrow. And I think some of them you might as well just start tossing a coin, because I think there's some, I know we've got seeds and non-seeds, but I think tomorrow, much more than today, we've got a bit of a lottery, certainly within this format. We'll start, Cowan, where I will come to you to tell me what on earth is going to happen when James Wade plays Mike DeDecker in the opening game. Don't forget, folks, get your predictions into the chat room and we'll have a look on screen and laugh at
Yeah, what a battle to start
An
the
odd
evening
game,
with.
isn't it? It's a hard. I think it's a really difficult game to pick on a short format.
Yeah, and I just think because obviously Mike De Decker has missed a couple of World Series now because he's been on holiday with his family and couldn't get to the events. I think he might be a bit out of practice, and because it's the short format, something tells me it's going to suit James Wade, and I think Wade wins 3-1.
I think James Wade wins as well. I think De Decker has not done himself favours in the way that he has vocalised his views on the situation within the PDC and who's made what decision. And I think I worry that manifests itself in getting into his head as soon as he starts his walk up. And that whilst the rest of the crowd might not be thinking about it, he might be thinking, I've made these statements, and this is the first time I've been on a TV stage since them, and I need to back up what I've said. And I think if you come into a game putting pressure on yourself and questioning different things, the one player you probably don't want to play against is James Wade, who will just turn up and throw darts at the board until you beat it, until you've defeated. Sorry, and I think it's slightly tighter. I think it's probably 3-2. But I agree with a pick of a James Wade win. Let's have a little look through the chat room. Joel has got Mike De Decker winning 3-1. Juanita has got James Wade winning 3-2. She agrees with me. Preston has gone 3-2 Wade. He's agreeing. We've got a little bit of a consensus here. Obox up 3-2 as well. James Wade, Dan Lucas, Mike De Decker 3-1. James has gone De Decker 3-1 as well. Yeah, for me, I think too much pressure on himself. Preston, I think you're right. I don't think the format helps the situation. There is literally nowhere to hide. If you have a leg off, you've lost a set. And I just think the slightest bit of something creeps in, and before you know it, the game has got away with you, especially against James Wade. Match number 2. Oh, this again. These are very, very challenging games to predict, I think. Dave Chisnell against Cameron Menzies. Cam Menzies, we saw put in an absolutely monstrous performance in the qualifying event. In that last game to qualify with an 106 average to beat Jan van Veen. Very impressive. He comes into it in form. Chisnell, questionable form of late. What do you think in this one, Carwin?
Whilst I don't think Menzies backs up his 106 average of qualifying for the Masters, I do think Chisnell is the first seed of the night to fall. I just think order of merit goes out the window in a format like this. As in 4 legs, you could be 2-0 down in sets, and then you're sort of on the verge of being out the tournament. And I think Chisnell gets a set, but Cameron wins 3-1.
This is probably one of the wisest thing we've had said in the chat room today. Yeah, I tend to agree. You will I cannot bring myself to pick Dave Chisnell to win a match when there's a camera in the room. It could be somebody filming at a bloody 4, and I'm not sure I'd trust him. I'm gonna go 3-0. I think Cammy comes out fast. I think he's a fast start, and I think he can get away quick. And I think he just has it in him if he finds the level to rattle off a few. Dan Lucas has gone Chizzy 3-2. 180's gone Chizzy 3-1. Everyone's disagreeing at the moment. James has gone 3-1 to Chisnell. Jules has gone 3-2 because we are in the minority here, Cowan. All what's up is with us. He's gone carry 3-1, but a lot of love for Chisnell in the chat room, it seems. It'll be interesting when we come back tomorrow on the show to see if we've been made fools of by the folks watching along, and if they've got it right, or if we can hold something above them. Now, Cowan, are you going to surprise the world in this next one, where your fellow countryman Johnny Clayton meets Martin Schindler?
They might be surprised that I give Schindler a couple of sets, but no, Johnny gets through this one. But I think it's going to be tight. I think we could go all the way, but 3-2 win for Johnny.
Well, we're in a pattern because I agree with the result. I think it's a Johnny Clayton win. I think it's probably a bit more dominant than that. I haven't seen. Again, we've seen some quite brilliant darts from Martin Schindler over the course of the last 18 months. It just hasn't been consistent enough from him. We were a couple of years removed now from those quarterfinals at the Grand Prix and the UK Open, and we've just seen too much of him losing in opening rounds, second rounds. Johnny's done this dance before. He knows this. He knows this tournament, albeit not in this format. I think it's a comfortable 3-1. And I don't think there'll be too much pressure. I think the 3-1 will probably be holds of throw. I think is what I'll give him. In the chat room, we are 3-1 Clayton from Joel. Dan Lucas is a 3-1 Clayton. James has gone Schindler 3-2. He thinks it's going to be tight as well. The 3-0 in there. A whitewash for Johnny. Juanita's with Johnny as well. A lot of Clayton love in the chat. It'll be interesting to come back tomorrow and hear from him if he does get the victory. Chester as well with a Johnny Clayton 3-1 victory. Very, very heavy one-sided predictions in the chat room. Nathan Aspinall and Andrew Gilding are our next two players. And again, I think it's a bit of what you like, isn't it? We have seen a lot more. We've seen a lot more from Nathan recently. We know he went through that troubled spell with his throw. Andrew Gilding hasn't done a great deal since that UK Open victory. What do you think?
At the moment, I'm trying to decide how many legs I give Gilding. I think Nathan wins 3-0. And I think Gilding only wins 2 legs. I think we see a dominant performance from the Asp, and it whitewashes him.
Oh. I think I'm going to disagree, Maybe just for devilment. But I think I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to pick Andrew Gilding in a 3-2 win. I think Nathan, I love to watch Nathan. I think he's a fantastic watch, but he can be erratic, and Andrew Gilding is anything but erratic. He's the opposite of erratic. He's about as measured and steady and level as you can possibly be. And I think if there's a player that won't get sort of drawn into a battle with Nathan and affected by that grittiness, then it's possibly Andrew Gilding, who's just robotic. And I'm gonna go 3-2 Andrew Gilding, and then partially it's just for devilment. We can have some crack tomorrow about it. What have we got in the chat room? We've got a 3-1 Asp win as we've got another 3-1 Asp win. Dan Lucas as well 3-1. A lot of 3 wins. Joel as well 3-1 to the Asp. Preston's gone 3-1 to the Asp. All boxed up. Gilding might nick it 3-2. He's gone with me, as has Juanita. There is a little bit. I will not be on my own looking a fool tomorrow night when we review this. There will be at least a couple of other folks that I can drag along with me. Yeah, the main event. I don't know why we're playing it 5th in the night. It should be on, I don't know, last. Or I hope they maybe got some special fireworks organised or something like that. Chris Dobie against heavy metal Ryan Searle. I'll go first on this one. I've been putting you in the hot seat a lot. I will pick a Dobie win. I think it's going to be incredibly hard work. Chris Dobie has got a habit of making very hard work of winning darts matches. Even ones that he should win very comfortably, he finds a way to make them difficult and stressful for me to watch. I don't think he'll make it stress-free tomorrow either. I think he'll come through 3-2, and I think they'll both miss match darts. Is my prediction. Dobie wins 3-2, match darts missed by both players.
Yeah, I think the first set in this game is probably the most important set of the night, because whichever one of these two settles the quickest can dominate proceedings. And maybe just for something to talk about tomorrow, I'll say Searle wins 3-2, but it's one of those games. There's 6 possible outcomes in the scoreline, and anyone of the 6 could come in.
Yeah, and none of them would be a particularly surprising result. That's it. Anything that happens in this game, if someone just told you afterwards that's the result, that's the score, you'd go, yeah. It's sort of like anything could happen. Most of the chat room seems to be agreeing with me. Joel's got Dobie winning 3-2, as has Dan Lucas, as has James. Everyone thinks it's going to be a tight one, I think. All boxed up with a 3-1, slightly wider Dobie victory. Juanita has backed you, though. I think that's Searle. Juanita's gone with a Searle 3-2 victory. She's with you there. Juanita's gone against the grain on a few of these, so I do hope you're back tomorrow, Juanita, to own up and face the music for a few of these rogue predictions. Next one, the game that I imagine everybody will be tuning in for, and regardless of what you say, it's prime time. Yes, it's not the headline at the end of the night. This is the one where they think they'll get the most viewers in for this one. Are you giving Andy Bartons a chance against Luke Littler? Can we get a qualifier upset the Wonder Kid?
Unfortunately not. I just think this sort of format probably suits Littler as much as anybody, because we've seen it already this year. He can get bursts of 2-3 legs where he averages something ridiculous and blows his opponent away. As in, if Luke Littler starts well, we could be in the third set after 6 minutes. And 3-0 Littler, sorry.
Not very often we get 2 former world champions in the opening rounds of the Masters, and if we can, I think there's many that would consider that. I mean, probably not so much. Andy Bartons. Yes, he came through the qualifiers, Andy Bartons, and in doing so, he sort of did all right. It was at mid-80s against the low 80s victory over Jose de Souza. Martin Lukeman underperformed, mid-80s against Bartons, and he played all right against Labanauskas in the final, but it was an uninspiring run in that qualification. The draw wasn't electric. He didn't really knock out anyone who he shouldn't have done. I just think Littler will win. Too many legs too fast. I think he'll rattle them off too quickly, and Bartons I think he'll just be blown away. And therefore, Juanita, she's going to be back tomorrow. That's good news. 3-0, and I think it's very hard to pick anything else. I maybe give Bartons 2 legs, 2 holes of throw maybe in that. There seems to be already a relatively heavy view in the chat room of the same. Joel's gone with a 3-0 victory. James has given Bartons a set. Dan Lucas 3-0, Juanita's 3-1. They're all, Preston's gone 3-0 as well. Another 3-0. Daly's gone 3-1 due to a slow start. Yeah, he can sometimes start slow, and you've got to start quick. I just think he wins legs so quickly, back to back, all boxed up, has gone with a Littler white wash. Interesting. Now, this is a one. I think this could be a brilliant game tomorrow, because Bradley Brooks is arguably one of the most informed players around at the moment. He's playing some absolutely superb darts in recent weeks, and he played very well in coming through the qualifier. He did beat a couple of players. The match against Christopher Tysky, he played very well. He played very well against Ian White, beat Cam Crabtree, where people maybe didn't think he would. I'm not having Michael Van Gerwen having just made a World's Final. The next time we play competitive darts on the TV as a 9-1 outsider to win the title. That's ridiculous. Because he'll win this game. Like he will win this game. But Bradley Brooks will win 2 sets. I think it will be closer. And I think those sets, I don't think we're going to see anything wild. I think Bradley Brooks will hold 2 sets. You know, he'll hold 2 sets on throw. He won't break Michael's throw, but I think it's a 3-2 MVG win.
I think, yeah, Bradley Brooks has been outstanding, and he's sort of started the year well, and sort of qualifying for the Masters will certainly give him confidence.
His Q School performance was unbelievable. Yeah. Like, to break the points record, like, it was so good, so consistent, and then to play so consistent in that format over that period of time, and then carry that into the qualifiers and do it again against tour card holders. And the way the draw worked out, he just kept playing established tour card holders, senior players, if you will, in Ratajski and Ian White, and players who are used to beating, you know, the new players on the tour. I know Bradley's not brand new to the tour; he's been around before.
Just
a bad draw for him, isn't it? That's all.
It's a horrible draw, and it's a shame, really, because I wouldn't have mind seeing him maybe come up against somebody outside of the top 5, let's say, and see how he'd fare against them, because it's probably one of 5 draws I can't see him winning. You give him anybody else, and I think he's got a fair shout.
Yeah, but I agree.
I think he wins the first set. Michael then does the old pull his socks up tick and reels off 3 sets. But Brooks will come out of this match having earned more respect, maybe. Not saying that he hasn't got any respect now, but I think he'll, after getting over the shock, the defeat, he'll look back at performance and sort of be happy how it went. And I think this is just the start of a great couple of years for Brooks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a very different position, I think, to last time. Quite a good mixture in the chat room of score predictions, but all with the same player. I think we've got every connotation of Michael Van Gerwen winning. We've got Joel, who thinks he's going to win 3-2. James is 3-1. We've got a 6-0 in legs, doesn't break a sweat. 3-0, very comfortable one. Juanita's gone back 3-2. Then we've got a 3-1. All Boxed Up has gone with a 3-2 MVG win. Joel, yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing Bradley Brooks. I say just because that level of consistency in winning matches that he's had of late, it's just fascinating. Then throwing him on the stage with a Michael Van Gerwen, like it's interesting, and I hope he doesn't get bashed up. I hope it's competitive. It's been competitive. This last game of the night, the headline act, if you will. This could be very competitive if they both turn up. One or the other could turn up, or neither could turn up. I think it's an interesting one, but I ain't got a bloody clue what we're going to see. Final game tomorrow: Gary Anderson against Dimitri van den Berg.
I cannot believe I'm about to say this, because it hurts me even thinking about it, let alone saying it. But Anderson hasn't got the best relationship with the Masters, and it's not a tournament he's done very well at all over the sort of last 10 years or so. I'm just hoping the change of format helps him.
And that it's ranked.
And that it's ranked, yeah. So I may get this horribly wrong, but I've just got a feeling Dimmy wins 3-1.
Oh, that's a big pick. I think it's... It's who turns up and plays, isn't it? And finds it. The difficulty with both of these is there's a few years ago, if somebody had said to you, even just 2 or 3 years ago, if someone had said these two are going to meet and it's going to be world number 14 against world number 18, you just said, what? Surely not. That can't be right. But it is right, and that's where they both sit, and that's where they both are at present. You know, they went out of the worlds, both of them, in rounds 2 and rounds 3 respectively. So, you know, they're both struggling for TV form of late. I think it's really difficult. Gary 3-2. I think Gary 3-2 winner. I think it'd be tight, and I don't think we're going to see a vintage game from either of them. I think Gary will dig in and grind it. I hope Dimmy doesn't dick around, because Gary won't have a great deal of patience for it. We might get a cracking interview after it if he does, which would be lovely. Mixture in the audience watching along by the looks of things. Joe's gone 3-1 Dimmy. James has gone 3-1 Anderson. I think it's going to be a bit of this. Dan Lucas has gone 3-1 Gando. Then we go 3-1 Dimmy. Then we've got 3-1 Anderson. And Renee has gone 3-1 Dimmy. So we've got a brilliant 50-50. The Connor's in with a Gary 3-0 win. So we've almost split the chat room in half with that one. And you know, I think we called it at the beginning. You could toss a coin on that. We don't know what we're going to see. But I'm very excited to see it. I think it's going to be a great game. Folks, thank you very much for being along and watching or listening if you are catching up on the audio only version of this as a podcast. Please don't forget, folks, that the interviews that we played tonight were just short excerpts from the full interviews with tonight's winners that will all be available on our YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow. I think you're back on with me tomorrow, aren't you, Carrot? Yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow, which is always good fun because we can laugh at our predictions and find out how wrong we were. But hopefully we're in for a few more surprises tomorrow. I think we will be. This format is very, very tricky, and I think there's some very strange games ahead tomorrow. Thank you all very much as ever in the chat room. This show is, well, without you all, it's just two lads talking to each other about darts. We could just do it over FaceTime or something. It would be pointless, wouldn't it? Thanks for watching along, folks. Dan Simpson and Carwyn Evans this evening on the Online Darts Fallout Bar. We will be back tomorrow. Thank you all very much and good night.